All right, gentlemen. Great pleasure to introduce the first co-host on the weekly recap meeting. You guys know him as the commissioner, Anthony Rosati. Hello, sir. How are you?
What's up, Eric? I appreciate you having me. Appreciate the work you put in. I think you've made it a lot more interesting, a lot more fun to follow this year. So really appreciate it, and just glad to be on.
Hey, man. Thanks for joining. I really appreciate it. I was thinking about doing a guest host last week and just thought it wouldn't be right if I didn't have the commissioner on the first time I opened arms. So glad you
Yeah,
could.
I mean, I probably would have kicked you out of the league. So yeah, good call.
Yeah, that's also why I did it too. But thanks for joining, man. Let's get right into it if you don't mind. We'll start off
Yep.
first with your pride and joy, the 7-10 matchup. We got Spider 2Y Banana and your team versus Valpo Vikings and Ippy. I'm just gonna open the floor real quick for you. What do you got here?
Well, I don't think I'm not looking forward to this matchup. Obviously, being in the consolation bracket, you don't get to make pickups. I'm stuck with Ben's favorite kicker, Dan Bailey, so that's probably a negative right there. Vegas D. So we're taping right now. It's halftime of the Thursday night game, so we have a little insight of what's going on. Derek Carr probably out for the game with the groin. So I mean, my matchup's pretty fucked. I wasn't too too excited about it going in. Ippy's been one of the hotter teams, and I kind of limped into the playoffs even though I had a chance to get in. So, he's got Derrick Henry. He's going to go off. I'm thinking, it's going to be a pretty simple win for him, especially with Derek Carr going out.
Yeah, man, I'm going to piggyback off of that. Ippy's been one of the better teams. Kaz kind of snuck up on you at the end, and this could be a completely different matchup if Kaz wouldn't have done what he did. But, taping at halftime right now, Derek Carr only 2 points. Las Vegas D is projected minus. I just don't think it's a good one for you here. So, Ippy, you caught fire at the wrong time, man, but congratulations on your 7th place win.
Yeah, it would only be fitting for him to win the consolation bracket after I think he was probably the 5th best team at the end of the year and just started off a little too slow.
That's it, man. That's how you do it, right? Original projections had Ippy as a 9-point favorite. I'm going to put it at 131 to 105 Ippy.
By the way, your projections last week were eerily very close. I think you were within like 9 or 10 points on 4 of the 6 teams that played. Like, it was unbelievable when I went back and rewatched it. So kudos to you on that, because it was crazy how close you were. And we both had all the matchups predicted correctly, but you with the points made it even more impressive. So good work on that, whatever you do.
At now is the 8 versus 12. That is Beats by Ray, and that's Kyle versus De Beers and Jason. Not sure if you have the matchup pulled up, but if you do,
Yep.
Go ahead, take the floor, sir.
This one, looking at it from a non-fantasy perspective, I think Kyle, as a manager, got his win out of the way. He's out of the dress bowl. I think he's happy to be where he's at, just not in that last game. Looking at the projections, Jason's got a 15-point edge on there. He's got, Nick Chubb, who's been great all year. Aaron Rodgers probably has a big week.
Mm-hmm.
I think I see the edge there. Again, these matchups don't mean much. I think Kyle's happy to be out of that dress bowl, and I've already gotten word from him. He's really hunkering down this off season. He's gonna do a lot of studying, probably more than he's ever done for anything. He said he's coming out with a new name and a new attitude for fantasy football. So we're on the lookout for next year, because he's guaranteed to be in the big boy playoffs next season.
Yeah, we'll see, man. I mean, if he gets the number 1 overall pick, right? I mean, I guess it when CMC was playing, like, he did have a chance for some victories, but
yeah,
we got to do a lot of homework on your end there, Kyle.
Yeah, I mean, that's fantasy football. I mean, you get the number 1 overall pick. You got, in a PPR league, who should be the best guy, and he plays 5, 6 games for you. I mean, there's not much you can do. So, he's out of the dress bowl. I think that's all that he wanted out of these last couple of weeks. So I give the edge to Jason on this one.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback on that. You know, the Beats by Ray, I'm imagining that that's a Ray Rice slogan.
Yep.
Him and Ray Rice are probably in the same darkness right now as a manager. So, again, I just, Kyle, 2 weeks ago, you beat me. I really don't have much room to talk. But just kind of looking at this, a big thing that I keep touching on is just depth, right? Tampa
Yep.
Bay Buccaneers, we just don't know kind of who's going to perform and what type Tom Brady is going to come out week over week. That's a lot of his team. Will Jonathan Taylor repeat against Houston's defense? Possibly, but again, I just think, and I can say this with confidence now, is the runner for MVP and Aaron Rodgers and Nick Chubb just running all over the New York Giants. Like I just think those two pieces are going to be too much, and De Beers is going to pull off the win here against Kyle.
I would agree.
Projections was 123 Jason to 108 Kyle. I'm going to give it a little bump. I'm going to go a 126 Jason to roughly about 110, 112 Kyle. So we'll see what happens here.
Okay.
Next, what we're going to do is we're going to focus on the fifth place game. It's you want to go to Warbalaki and myself versus Eifert sometimes and Kaz. I'm going to hand it over to you. Give me your projections.
So when you look at this game, very close projections. You got two big-time quarterbacks, the back-to-back MVPs, if I'm not mistaken, Mahomes and Jackson. I think Mahomes, he's got a tougher matchup this week. Lamar Jackson, depending on how his stomach's feeling, we'll see. He's got a dream matchup against the Jags.
Lotto
Your wide receivers, Corey Davis, it seems like they switch off games between him and A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown got his last week. He's a little banged up. I don't know, it didn't seem to affect him last week. But playing against Detroit, Ayuk, he's emerged. No more Deebo Samuel. I think that you just have too much firepower along with, Cook and Jones, who are two of the top running backs in the league. Kaz is getting some good production here at halftime out of Hunter Henry. Mike Davis getting the lead role again for Carolina helps. But overall, Michael Thomas, he just hasn't, especially now with Drew Brees being out, he's never really panned out since he got back. I just think that it favors you in this matchup, probably in a pretty close game. But I got you in this one.
Yeah, so I hate to say this, Kamish, but I'm going to have to disagree here.
Okay.
And I've had multiple conversations with LaBella the past couple of weeks after the ass beating that he gave me last week. Where
yeah, how's speaking of asses, how's your ass feeling after that?
I mean, it's very raw. It's still bleeding. It's very bad.
You'd rather have that happen though than lose by 2 points on a fluke thing. I mean, you'd rather get stomped by a team that scores 180 or whatever.
Yeah, no question. And, at the beginning, I thought Lamar Jackson had a chance to score 90 points. But, his colon kind of had different plans for fantasy championships, and that's how it works, right?
Yep.
So I'm kind of in that mix where I either score 80 or 180. And I just don't know if that's, a week where I'm going to score 180 again. I like the favorable matchups. Myles Gaskin being out for me with COVID certainly does help, but the immersion of J.K. Dobbins on Baltimore does help. But again, with Jacksonville, if they get up 14, 21 scores or 21 points, hopefully all those touches go to Dobbins. On the flip side, Aaron Jones lately is a projection that has been really high, and that ceiling just isn't being hit. So he had those couple weeks where he did really, really well. Then he went down with an injury. And I just don't think he's the same. I think now kind of the mindset and the projection is, hey, we want Aaron Rodgers to win the MVP. So let's just have him rack up 4 throwing touchdowns, and we don't have to run the ball at all. I don't know if that's because it's a contract year for him as well. I'm not quite sure, but just kind of flipping it on the flip side, right? You got Johnson over at Pittsburgh. What type of Big Ben are we going to see? I heard that he's thinking about retiring now again for the 800th time. Is he going to be a throwing threat this week? Cam Akers is emerging big time. And then him and Mike Davis, like you said, like those two, if we're going, 4 touchdowns between the both of them, I think that might be a little too much for me unless Lamar goes off again.
Well, that could be the big story. Cam Akers, we couldn't believe talking to Joe and Steve how the hell he was on the waiver wire and you had dropped him, so that could come back to bite you in this matchup. But I still think you edge it out. Deontay Johnson, we'll see. He got benched for the first half last week, came back in the second half, made some plays, but we'll see how it goes. I think it's going to be a close matchup.
Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna favor Kaz here. Original projection was me 131, him 128. I'm gonna give him a slight edge. I'm gonna go 135 to 125. Next, what we'll do is we will get into the 1 and 4 matchup. So that is going to be between the league, I guess you would say the league favorite in Onions and Miguel, versus the Golden Domers in the 4 slot with Joe.
Yep, heavyweight matchup.
We got a lot of people in play already for this Thursday night game.
Yeah, well, I think anything can happen obviously every week, but right now even though it's the 1-4, these are the top 2 teams in the league. Miguel pretty much been up in that 1 spot or around it all year. Mm-hmm. Joe having rattled off 10 in a row now.
10 in a row.
Just an improbable run. His team, like we said earlier, put up a shitload of points against you last week.
Yeah.
I've already made my pre-playoff projections. I had Joe winning this matchup. I'm going to stick with that, but I think this one can go anyway, and it's going to be super close in a pretty high-scoring game. Joe's issues are going to come down to his question marks, which just looking through his lineup, he's got A.J. Brown, Calvin Ridley, Chris Carson, all questionable. Austin Eckler was questionable. He's playing today. Mm-hmm. Not a great first half. Is it a prerequisite when you are a top wide receiver on the Falcons that you have to be questionable every week?
I think so. I don't think they have a training staff over there.
Yeah, I mean, between him and Julio Jones, every single week, they're most likely going to play. Julio didn't last week, but they always have a question mark of some sort by him.
I feel like they just flip a coin on Tuesday and say, are you down to not practice this week?
Yeah. Who's going to get the practice reps? Joe has a lot of interesting – I mean, there's a problem you could have with having too deep of rosters, who you play, and making those right choices. I mean, obviously the injuries are going to play a part, but when you have guys like Amari Cooper, Chase Claypool, who we made the jokes earlier in the year, but he was huge for Joe.
Huge.
Even Wayne Gallman, that pickup after Saquon went down, he's been solid all year. Mm-hmm. Ronald Jones being out with COVID makes that an easy decision. So he's got a couple of decisions to make. Miguel, I think his team's bouncing back into form after, he's not going to have Antonio Gibson. I don't think is going to play. I don't know. We'll see. If not, I don't know how much he'll play. Mm-hmm. Josh Jacobs had been banged up. Now he's back playing today. 6 points so far at halftime. Miles Sanders looked rejuvenated with Jalen Hurts in there last week.
That's what happens when you get a good quarterback in there.
Yeah. You look at across the board, A.J. Brown versus Tyreek Hill, Calvin Ridley versus Stephon Diggs. You got Jared Allen versus Kyler Murray, who kind of got the tale of two halves, where at the beginning of the year, Kyler Murray really carried Miguel. He was unbelievable the first half of the season. Now he's been a little nicked up, hasn't really been a rushing threat, so his production's gone down a little bit. Jared Allen has arguably been the best quarterback in the league the past month, probably top 3 or 4 throughout the whole year now. I don't know. I mean, this will be a fun one to follow. But I still going to stick with my initial projection and say Joe's going to win, but this one can go either way.
Yeah, I'm with you on it. It's kind of funny. I look around and I see a few players that I've had and then wanted to keep on my roster and ended up releasing, like a T.Y. Hilton.
It was unbelievable last 2 weeks.
Unbelievable. And I don't know where it came from, right? And just to kind of piggyback, like you said, the Chase Claypool kind of crap that we gave Joe, it was funny for a while, but then when he kept putting up 30 points every single week, it was kind of like a shame on us for not even thinking about picking him up. I'm not sure if you
now he's in a spot now where he hasn't done anything the last couple of weeks, so even though he got you there, had those huge weeks, it's hard to justify playing him. But I guess it's a good position to be in, but you just want to make sure you make the right choices in these big games.
Of course, 100%. I mean, just like in golf, you can hit a drive 350 yards, but if you 4-putt, you still bogey.
Been there.
right? All the time.
Maybe not the long drive, but the 4-5.
But I mean, just kind of recapping what I said earlier in the year, right? Like Kyler Murray was poised to have a breakout year this year. The scheme that they run over there in Arizona is really different. I really like what they do, but then after about week 5 or 6, their schedule completely flipped on them, and they have one of the top 3 toughest schedules throughout the rest of the year. So that pressure and just kind of those different schemes that have been given to Kyler Murray has caused some hiccups for him down the road. It looks like he's getting out of it, which I think is going to benefit him in the long run to be a great not only player but fantasy player as well. But on the flip side, man, you just don't know what type of Tyreek Hill you're going to get, right? You can have 4 guys on the defense from New Orleans, and he can still burn all 4 of them. So the dude can have 300 yards and a half, or for some reason it feels like he's always scoring 1 touchdown. So if we're looking at it there, like you said, kind of the injury bug on Joe's side, it's very hard to win 2-3 games in a row in fantasy football, let alone 10. And this is just something that's unheard of, right? I remember talking with Joe early in the season when he was 0-3, and he's like, dude, I keep making the wrong decisions. He's like, just wait, I'm going to get hot. Sure enough, man, he's rolled off 10 in a row. And I'm looking at
this big trade for him right during that early losing streak or whatever, when he got Josh Allen from Kaz. So, I mean, huge trade. He's got 3 starters from that trade currently in his roster. So,
and again, I think I should take the blame for that because I kind of made Kaz trade him because we all knew he wasn't going to start over Mahomes. But now watch it end up burning me and Mahomes go off to beat me as well. But, I think Joe made the necessary moves when it needed to happen. Looking at it, Amari Cooper versus San Francisco's defense, which if it's anything like last week, like that's going to be some yardage. Andy Dalton's getting his swagger back a little bit, even though Mike McCarthy is the worst coach in the NFL. You've heard it here firsthand for about 10 years now, and you just don't understand how great Aaron Rodgers is. And then again, the Ronald Jones being out with COVID makes the Chris Carson play a lot smoother and a lot easier to sleep at night, especially after the game he had last week where he just went off and was hurdling over people. It looks like it's going to be close. I think there's going to be a lot of points scored in this game, but realistically, I don't think this game is close. I think Joe kind of mops the floor up with Miguel, welcomes him to our league. Miguel, you had a good run in your first year, brother. Looking forward to meeting you, hopefully at our next year's draft, whenever that may be. But I just think this Joe Golden Domers team is too much. Give me Joe here.
Can't have a rookie win.
I agree 100%. Joe is going to win 154-140. What we'll look at is the 2-3 matchup. That 2-3 matchup is Thought Pockets and Steve versus State Farm Ponzi Scheme and Marquardt. Kamish, what do we got?
So looking at this matchup, and I went back and looked kind of a interesting chain of events how this matchup came to be. Obviously, I was still in the playoff hunt week 13, needed to beat Steve to get in, which I did. Steve had the 2-slot locked down, which he had a win over Eric, who was in that 2-slot for a long time. Eric had a huge week 13, so got the win to tie Steve up, beat him in points, almost outscored Miguel by 100 to take the number 1 spot. So that huge week 13 got Eric into this game because last week, and you can't say for sure because he could have made moves or made changes, but his team didn't perform well. So without getting that bye, he probably would have got bounced by Kaz last week. So kind of a big deal of what happened week 13 to get here. Another good matchup, going to be close. We got some guys going right now. Keenan Allen was a tough play for Steve, being banged up and not sure what you're going to get out of him. So far, hasn't been a lot here early in the third quarter. Waller has a touchdown already and a couple of receptions. You got to look at the quarterbacks. Both have dream matchups this week. Tannehill versus Detroit, who their secondary is god-awful. Goff versus the Jets, who, I mean, just as awful. I mean, you got to look at both of these as, Russ Wilson got pulled against the Jets in the third quarter last week. It will something like that happen. With the Titans, you never know if they're just going to let Tractor Cito run wild. So that's always, something to look out for. But in the end, I think Steve's overall talent here gets him through in this game. Again, I'm going to stick with my original projection or pick. He's been riding his Steelers, who got him through on Monday night last week or Sunday night, whatever it was. Again, but how this game plays out with Keenan Allen will be big. Eric is another guy. You were talking about your team being either all or nothing. He scored 180 the week before. Last week, he was only going to score in the 80s or 90s. He's got guys that can go off, Thielen, Beasley, Hines. They could have huge games. Allen Robinson's been model of consistency all year, but I don't know. I think another pretty close matchup. I don't know what you have to say about it.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the fence here for this matchup, and again, not even looking at the kind of lopsided start here with Darren Waller scoring a tutty, and then Keenan Allen having -1 rushing yards and only having 2.7 points right now on the board. But the way that I look at it is, I feel like every week that I pick against Eric, he ends up winning. And he's the first one to text me to say, hey man, you shouldn't have picked against me this week. And
what do they call it? Locker room material or bulletin board material?
Yeah. Or NSFW, right? That's what it is. But just kind of looking at it, the Keenan Allen was a tough spot. I mean, me personally, I would have replaced him with Curtis Samuel. The only bad thing is that he's probably going to be going up against Jair Alexander, who's one of the top safeties in the league. But I still think that, with Robbie Anderson on the other side of the ball, Curtis Samuel might get some under routes where he can perform pretty well from a PPR perspective. And especially now looking at it where Keenan Allen only has 2 points, it's like, oh yeah, that's a no-brainer. I can say that now. But just kind of looking at it, like, again, I get back to the depth, right? We start to look against Robinson versus Hines, right? I like that matchup for Robinson, even with Robinson being questionable. And then for some unknown reason, all of a sudden the Bears have nothing to play for, and Montgomery is all of a sudden the stud that all you Bears fans thought he was going to be, versus the pass first, pass second, pass third, and run fourth Dallas Cowboys and Ezekiel Elliott. So I don't know.
Well, Nagy figured out how to give him the ball.
I guess that's what it is. I can just see it now. I can see 3 years down the road, just an extension for Trubisky. Next thing you know, Nagy is going to be coach of the year in 2027. Like, all you Bears fans are going to be so ecstatic to keep that team around to go 8-8 every single year.
Love it. Let's do it. Sign me up.
Looking at it, Marquardt gives me shit all the time. He told me this year that Cole Beasley was going to be better than Michael Thomas. I called him a flat-out liar to his face. And
that's a hell of a pick.
I really have to eat my own words here. Marquardt, I do apologize, but Cole Beasley has been a threat for you and for the entire league. Picked up Tim Patrick, which I like the move. I don't think he'll play. But again, I mean, if Allen Robinson's your flex here in this position, I just think it might be too strong. So kind of getting back to it, the main matchup that I look at is just going to be QB versus QB. Both teams are poised to go off. Like you said last week, Russ went out in the third quarter against the Jets. I don't think the Jets win a game this year. Do you?
No, I think they're 0-16.
Yeah, and again, I don't know what's going to happen there. Like, if they're just going to, like, when they blitzed everybody against the Raiders 2 weeks ago and they ended up losing on that, like, I mean, I didn't even play football, and I know that you don't do that.
Yeah. But I think that was his ticket out.
That was it. But the thing is
after to Gase, I think he wanted to lose. But yeah, I mean, I don't see them winning a game. Yeah, I don't know. And that makes it tough because, yeah, like you said, Goff, will he play a full game? How will they run the ball? That's what you never know when it comes to these fantasy matchups. So, what do you got on this one?
Yeah, I hate to say it. I'm going to go the other side here. I'm going to pick Eric just because right now, from a projection standpoint, I think he gets more from his top 3 players than Steve does. And I'm going to go a super close one. I'm going to go 130 to 127.
Yeah, and as we're looking at it live, he's got a 11-point edge, so you're cheating a little there, but I'll give it to you.
Yeah, I am, but at the same time, I don't think Zeke Elliott's going to score 12, and I feel like Hines might have a little bit of a day versus Houston.
Yep.
Perfect. So that kind of leaves the last matchup of the day. I would like to say that it's the most important. It definitely has no winning of money or no pride or anything like that. But
Well, there's pride involved.
there is a little bit of pride. I guess walking into the women's department and buying a dress takes a lot of pride from you. But here we are, man. This is the dress bowl. We got the 11 seed past the LeGarrettes and Benny versus the 9 seed. A team has no name and Scotty. Um, Give it to me straight, brother. What do you got?
Well, I made my pick beforehand. I had Scotty losing to Ben, and just looking at the matchup, I think it's going to go that way and probably pretty easily. Me and you had talked about this before we got on here, about maybe needing to switch up how we do the dress bowl just because of the fact that you can't make pickups unless you have injuries, which I think is the right thing because only those top 6 or 4 teams playing, plus there's keeper implications there. So going down the road, maybe that's something we talk about of making it just the 12th seed in the regular season who's been the worst all year, or maybe the bottom 2 this year would have actually played out perfectly. Kyle and Ben playing week 13. But leaving that behind or figuring that out for later on,
Yeah.
the matchup. As Scotty's team, you alluded to it last week. He, as Russ cooked, he cooked. He hasn't put up the kind of numbers recently. He's Scotty's got a bunch of guys banged up or out. I don't know if he's getting. Looks like DJ Moore is back this week.
Yeah, he should play.
So that'll help a little bit, give him a little boost. Some extra points there in wide receiver. Looking over at Ben's team, I mean, again, he's got Big Ben who, what are we going to keep getting out of him? He's looked a little shaky last couple of weeks. They got Cincinnati this week. But the big difference here is Davante Adams. And I looked at this last night when doing a little prep and saw that he had a projected 25.24. And I'm like, what the hell? Like, that's unheard of for a wide receiver. And then when I would look back, since he's been back since week 6, he's averaged 27. So that's being low on it. I mean, he's been an absolute monster. So he's going to probably live up to that projection again against Carolina, who, doesn't have a great pass D. Ben's got a couple question marks at running back who will probably both play. But again, James Conner, he hasn't been doing much. Melvin Gordon, they're playing Buffalo. They'll probably be behind in that game. But I think it just comes down to that Devontae Adams, and Tyler Lockett. I mean, who knows what you get out of him? You can get 1 catch or 125 yards.
Yeah.
I'm still going to go with my original pick, and Ben's not going to want to have to wear a dress. I think it's going to go to Scotty this year. 2 years ago, he was the champ, going from first to last. So, sorry, Scotty, that's my feeling on this one. I don't know what you got to say about it.
Yeah, man, just kind of touching on the Davante Adams story this year has been pretty phenomenal, right? Me being a diehard Packers fan, I observe a little bit on that end, a little bit north of the border than you guys do. But, I mean, in 11 games this year, he's caught 91 balls for 1,144 yards and has 14 touchdowns. Like, if that doesn't say something, let alone project 25 points this late in the season from a wide receiver. Like, I look at it and say Ben is 4-9 overall. Like, how many of those wins were because of Davante Adams, scoring a 30 or 40 burger and actually getting that win by a couple points,
Yeah, I'm surprised Davante Adams hasn't asked for a trade to get on a better team. I mean, what the hell? He's putting up all these points and has 4 wins all year.
Hey, I mean, that's what I'm talking. When you go to talk to Ben about a trade, he goes, "Tell me what you want to offer me," and you offer him, and he's like, "Nope, not possible." So
yeah, there's definitely a particular science of trying to trade with Ben, and I haven't cracked it yet. I don't know. I don't think anyone has.
No.
So
I feel like he just puts his phone down waiting for offers. They come and he just ignores them.
Yeah. Yep. Unless you're giving your first round pick for his 5th or 6th, then.
Hey, to tell you the truth, now hear me out on this. Like, what do you think of that potentially next year? Like, adding in some potential draft picks being in for some trades. Not sure if that would be something that you would be interested in, or if anyone else would be interested in that possibility.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with that I think the only problem with that is then you get teams towards the end of the year where you're almost tanking, where you're giving away guys and not getting anything
True.
back to make it where you're competitive. So, even though you're not in the playoff race, then you need that guy to win so
Yeah.
it makes the current teams less competitive when you're trading for picks because you're not getting anything worth any points right now. So
Exactly.
I think that's the only problem with it. If you do a dynasty league, I think that makes it a little bit different. But in a
Yeah.
one keeper league, I think I like the idea we trade picks at the draft, which obviously we couldn't this year if we're doing it in person.
Yeah. I
I
like
think
that.
I like the idea of it. I just don't think it works for kind of what we have going.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, over the last 2 years, we've made multiple changes. And I believe personally that they've been good changes. And, just being involved more in depth this year, has really kind of made me enjoy the format even more of kind of how we have everything set up.
Yeah, nothing's set in stone. I mean, I think we're going to talk. We'll get your prediction on this matchup. Then we're going to talk a little bit about maybe possible changes or additions. But definitely
Mhm.
always open up to suggestions, ways to make the league better, more fun. So yeah, but what's your thought on this dress bowl? Who's wearing the dress?
Yeah, yeah. I'll keep it. I'll keep it short and sweet for you, right? Even though Big Ben is about 800 years old, I still think Benny and the Jets are too powerful for this. Scotty, you got the short end of the deal. I mean, Kenny Galladay should have been a stud, like out all year. Like Rosati said, DJ Moore is probably going to play. I would start him over Alan Lazard. Watch Lazard score 2 touchdowns and go off. But again, just from a depth perspective, I think the Washington defensive line is very, very strong. I think Russ is going to be in some trouble. If he scores 20 points this week, I would be really, really shocked. I don't have this very close. Usually Ben's on the other side of a blowout. I'm predicting Ben 120 to Scotty's 85.
I would have to agree.
Mm-hmm. So, Kamish, I appreciate the time. I'm going to get this all edited up and go from there. But I know that you touched on it briefly, just kind of some closing remarks and kind of what to expect for next year and kind of leading into the end of the playoffs and things like that. So I'll let you have the floor here.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you for your weekly breakdowns and projections and matchups. I don't know how much time you put in every week to it, but it's a lot of fun reading that stuff and looking at the jabs, your betting predictions. So going into this year, and even for a while this year, I wasn't as in on fantasy football. Maybe because I'm gambling every week, and doing that is
Mm-hmm.
maybe taking over a little bit. Also, just with everything going on, the uncertainty, which really I think we had very little issue with that all year. But
Yeah, I agree. I
yeah,
thought we did a great job.
reading those the predictions every week definitely made it more fun, and doing stuff like this adds a lot to the league. So thank you, and I know everyone else enjoys it too. The couple things I wanted to ask, and maybe you could put this in a poll, ways to determine the draft order. Last year we did the NFL playoff pool.
Mm-hmm.
The year before, I think we picked like a golf tournament, and everyone picked golfers.
Yeah.
So just if anyone has suggestions, we could do blind draw out of a hat. We could do another thing with the NFL playoffs. We just want to do some suggestions on that
Mm-hmm.
and just see, you know, maybe something fun, maybe just something completely random to determine that. But yeah, definitely coming up for next year. Definitely we're going to plan ahead a lot better. Hopefully things will be a little bit more back to normal. We'll go back to having the in-person draft, which was a lot of fun. Made the
Mm-hmm.
draft and everything
I
way
ate way
more
too
fun.
much
And
pizza that night.
yeah, and way too much beer. I think we were up till 3 o'clock or whatever. So want to get that planned way ahead of time, so guys like Eric and Ben can hopefully make it in from out of town. Obviously now with Zoom, it makes it
Mm-hmm.
easier if they can't. But definitely want to do that again. We're going to have money from the transactions. And everyone wants to show up to see Scotty or Ben and Kaz, who wasn't there
Yes.
last year, or wasn't up draft 2 years ago. Still hasn't gotten to wear the dress from last year. So
Mm-hmm.
Kaz, you're not out of the woods. You're still wearing a dress. So yeah, I think that's about all I got. Maybe we touch again about how we do the dress bowl and figuring out who's wearing that if we want to not do the consolation playoffs. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think there's going to be some good matchups this week. I appreciate you having me on here. It was a lot of fun. I did some prep, so I was looking forward to that for the last couple of days.
Love that.
And we'll see if my predictions. I mean, shit, we need to get my bookie or someone to put odds on our fantasy league. We both would have won way more money than we did on NFL last week.
We need to. If I had a little bit more capital.
We went 0-5 in the contract. This probably went a little bit longer. I don't know how much editing you're going to have to do. Sorry for keeping everybody else too long here. But yeah, appreciate all the work you put in. And you still got to come get that trophy at some point. So it's sitting in the garage still. Yeah,
I think what I might do is whenever we have the draft, I think I might just take like a bunch of pictures, change my shirt a couple of times so it looks like I had it for a couple of days, drink a few beers out of it, and then just pass her off.
All right, hey, fair enough. Or if you want to get it before, have it before the draft, whatever.
Yeah. All right, fellas, thanks so much for joining me and the commission tonight. I appreciate it. Weekly recap will be a little bit shorter this week since we spent so much time kind of digging deep in here. Rosati, we'll link up offline, and we'll go from there.
All right. Good luck, guys.
Good luck, boys.